Hey everyone, my name is Dave. Today I'll be tying a custom creation of mine. It's a Sculpin slash damselfly slash buggy looking little thing. It's something that I use a lot for the trout in the local area, brookies, browns, pretty much anything that'll take a bug like this. So anyway, I'm tying them on a jig style hook, which is a DJI 4660 90 degree bend hook with these MFC sparkle eyes. For this particular size, I'm using a size 2 hook. Oftentimes I'll tie them smaller, size 4, size 6, and I match the eyes accordingly to the hook. For this one I'll be using large in a yellow color. So with that, I'll get started. I have my hook set up in the vise and I'm just going to get my thread started. I like to add a little bit of, had too much coffee today. Get my thread going on here. Okay, we'll build up a little bit of a thread base and get my eyes started. I like to do a series of figure 8 wraps to get it locked in place while that glue is still somewhat wet. And then I go around quite a few times. I'm also using GSP thread, which for those of you that have used it, you know that it is very strong, so that's what I prefer for this particular pattern. Like I said, I do figure 8 wraps and then kind of wrap around the base of the eyes as well. Once I feel like I got that locked in place, I'll kind of just make sure that it's fairly straight on the hook. I like to add a few strands of some, this is root beer colored crystal flash, I believe this one's called. Tie it in the middle of the clump here, and then what I do is fold it together and tie it backwards to about where the bend of the hook starts. Okay, after that I'll tie in my tail, which is a barred olive zonker strip. I like to get a little bit of the fur off right towards the start of my strip, just so it doesn't get all clumped up on the hook. For this pattern, I like to tie in the hide pretty close to where the eyes are, just so that it gives it a nice uniform body when I do tie in my dubbing. Wrap it back to where about that flash ended there, and then just lock it in place nicely. Okay, I will also be using a palmered hackle, so that's kind of like woolly bugger style. So for that, I also will add a reinforcing wire. This is just ultra wire, size small, in hot orange. Gives a kind of little flash to it. Tie that back as well. Just let it hang for the time being. At this point, I'm using pheasant tail ice dub. This is what I use for the body on this particular fly, and I will be pinch dubbing it to the thread. I find that I don't really need to use wax or anything like that. It wraps pretty well and dubs pretty easily. Certain types of dubbing are a little bit more coarse, and it's certainly not a bad idea to use wax, but you don't really have to with this particular style. So I'm just adding my ice dubbing now. Usually I'll go add my first section, and then if I need to add more, I will then just do that after. So start wrapping it from the back forward, kind of ensuring I get a fairly uniform shaped body, a nice little taper to it. Looks pretty good. At this point, I take these are just Whiting Farms standard rooster hackles. Actually, they're for dry flies, but they work pretty good for what I'm using them for here. So I take and strip off some of the fluff and the longer part of the material and get some of that out of my way so I could tie this in nice. So then go ahead and tie that in right below or right behind where the eyes are. Give it a fair amount of wraps just so it's locked in place nicely. Go ahead and trim off that quill on there. At this point, you wrap your hackle palmered backwards, woolly bugger style. Grab your wire with your other hand and reverse wrap that through your wraps of hackle to lock it in place. So at this point I don't even need to hold on to the hackle or anything anymore. Sometimes it helps to kind of wiggle it as you go through just so you don't catch any of those fibers of your hackle. Tie it in just ahead of the eyes. I have a little bit more room to work with there, so that's where I'm tying that in. Okay. Take that off. At this point, I'll be using a strung guinea hen feather in olive colored. I like to size the hackle to the size of hook that I'm using. So for this particular fly, I'll be using a feather that's about this size here. So not one of the biggest ones and not one of the smallest ones. Kind of in the middle. Again, you want to strip off some of that fluff that's on the bottom there, kind of like what you did with the other hackle. And then I fold it back so you just have this tip like this. And again, I'll tie that in right between the eyes there, right behind them, giving it enough wraps to make sure it's secure. Has a pretty thin stem on it. Sometimes they're a little thicker, but hackle pliers this one. Okay, maybe not. So I will just be tying this in and pinching the fibers backwards as I go. Everything looks good. I personally like to use a little bit of glue once I'm done tying that in. It just helps to prevent it from unraveling later on down the road. Okay, at that point I like to go back behind the eyes again. Make sure everything's tapered back nicely. Add some more of your ice dubbing. I have a pretty good amount on there because it takes quite a bit to fill up that space there behind the, in between and behind and in front of those dumbbell eyes. Typically I'll have to add more as I go. But again, I kind of do some figure 8 wraps with this. Add a little bit more, just to get that nice full head on there. Can be a little bit shaggy as you dub your dubbing onto your thread. It's not doesn't have to be totally tight like you might want to have a dry ply or something along those lines. A bit more to finish it off. Okay, and then bring your thread around to the front to where the bend of the hook is. Just give it a nice little whip finish to finish that off. I personally like to do 2 just to have it locked in place. And of course, never a bad idea to put a little bit more of your glue on there, UV glue. Anything works really. Okay, at this point I like to cut off my hanging hackle there that I didn't cut off yet, and also I like to trim my rabbit zonker back a little bit so it's not too long. Typically what I'll do is take a scissors or something like that with me to the stream where I'm fishing, and if I find that I'm getting short strikes, they're grabbing the tail a lot, you can shorten it up a little bit more even. And there it is, there's a finished product. So it has some of the elements of a woolly bugger. You know, I like the old woolly buggers just as much as the next guy, but it incorporates some of the newer, more modern techniques like jig hooks and dumbbell eyes and all that good stuff. Very durable fly. They tend to be able to take some abuse. They certainly work well. Nice when you're fishing areas with a lot of structure, a lot of snags. This is how it'll travel through the water with the hook point up, because it is counterweighted with the dumbbell eyes, and they just work well. So if you'd like to see more trout videos, Seth likes to do the pike flies and predator stuff. I'm definitely a trout guy, so if you want to see more, drop a comment in the video, and thank you very much.